right, guys. So today got my computer fixed, so hopefully we're looking a little better. So to finish up the video from yesterday, remember what we're looking for when it comes to factoring is we're dividing here. So I can divide 4 into 8 and 4, and I can divide by an R and an R. And this one I can divide by a 3 and by a 3. So it works out pretty easily. So then we can go 4, 4, and then that one cancels. So I'm left. So I'm going to bring my 4R out in front, and then I'm left with a Q. My R's cancel, and I'm going to divide by 2. Then I'm going to bring my 3 that I divided by out front, and then 3 divided by 3 is just Q, and plus 6 divided by 3, which is just 2, not 3. And then this whole thing, this piece here and this constant, so this monomial and this constant, they become 4R plus 3. I know my V's, R's look like V's. Sorry, guys. And then we have Q plus 2 right there. So that is my final answer. Okay. And then yesterday you had some solving equation ones. So you ended up with something like, let's say 4x squared plus 8x equals 0. So then we get to this point here. Let's do it this way. Let me erase that real quick. And let's go equals negative 8x. So what we have to do with this one is we have to move this negative 8x to the other side. So I'm going to add 8x to both sides. And we're going to get 4x squared plus 8x equals, oops, let's write that in a different spot here. We get 4x squared plus 8x equals, those cancel, 0. And so then I need to, what can I divide out of both? So I'm going to go ahead and change colors like I normally do. And I'm going to divide by a 4x and a 4x. And when I do that, I put my 4x out front, and then whatever's left on the inside is my other factor. So let's go back to my other color here. And those cancel, and I'm left with x on the inside, and 8 divided by 4 is positive 2, and the x's cancel. So I'm left with this equation right here. Now, all you do is you take your 4x and set it equal to 0. And then you take the parentheses, the quantity inside the parentheses, which is x plus 2. You set that equal to 0. So we solve this. We divide both sides by 4, and we get x equals 0. And we subtract 2 from both sides, and we get x equals negative 2. So therefore, my answer is x equals negative 2 and x equals 0. So that's how you solve equations. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some extra examples here on how to use the, let me go back to the page, guys. I flipped the page too many times. On how to use the area model. So let's look at this. 3NP plus 15P minus 4N minus 20. Okay. And we want to factor this, okay? We want to factor. So what we do is we create, and this is where I really stink at this. So let's just do a couple of lines here. Let's do that line. If I don't do it this way, guys, my lines look really horrible. So let's keep doing this until we get a roughly shaped box here that looks like that. Hold on, guys. I know you're like, really, Mr. Lasky? Do you have to take this long to draw a square? Well, see, look at that. I can't even draw a straight one with that one. And here's my final piece. So I make a grid just like that, all right? Hopefully yours looks better than mine. And then I'm going to take the first two terms right here. I'm going to put on top 3NP and 15P. Oh, wait a sec. My brain's not working. I'm going to take the first term, 3NP. I'm going to put right here. I'm going to take the last term and put negative 20 up here. And then I'm going to take these two middle terms and I'm going to put them wherever you want. I'm going to put the 15P right here and the negative 4 right here. So I just kind of go 3NP. I just kind of go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I go 1, 2, 3, 4. So then I look at this and go, okay, I'm going to work with the row. I'm sorry, the column. So a column is the up and down. So I'm going to work with this column here and this column here. So I'm going to look at this and say, okay, what is common between both of them? Well, I can take out an N and an N. So I'm going to put an N right here because I can pull out of these boxes, I can pull an N. Now, if I look at this, I don't have a variable that I can pull out of, but I can divide both of them, I can divide both of them by 5. So I'm going to take out a 5. Okay, so once I do my columns, I do columns first. And then I do rows second. Okay, so then I look at this. And then I do my rows. I look at my row here. So my first row right there. I'm going to look at that and say, okay, what can I divide out of both of those? Well, I can divide a 3 out of both of those because 3 goes into 3 once and 3 goes into 15 5 times. So I'm good there. And then left to right, I can take out the variable p. So I can pull the variable p out of there. And I go to the second row. And I look at it and I go, oh, there's 2 negatives, so I can take a negative out of there. And what else can I do? I can take out a 4 because 4 divides into 20 and 4 divides into 4. So I can take out a 4. So now here's the trick. This is my answer here. And this is my answer here. So my answer is 3p minus 4 times n plus 5. And that's how you use the area model. Okay? All right. So let's tackle today's stuff. We can tackle today's stuff relatively simple, kind of like we did yesterday. So we're going to be working with 1.6. And sorry the video is long, guys, because I had to make up for yesterday because my computer was stupid. Let's just take something like x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay? So we got x squared plus 7x plus 12. This is what a polynomial is. Polynomial is anything raised to the second power or more. There's a bunch of different ones, but we're just going to do solving polynomials by factoring. So we have to have what's a trinomial, and we can use factor by grouping. We're going to deal with just quadratics, which means it's an x squared. So we're staying pretty straightforward, okay? So we're going to solve these by factoring. So we're going to incorporate some factoring into here, and we're going to incorporate setting it equal to 0. So let's just look at this. So to find the answer, we need to know the question of what 2 factors did this come from? Did this quadratic, we'll call it a quadratic. Remember, it's a quadratic because it's got the squared right there. What 2 factors did this quadratic come from? In other words, did it come from x plus 2, x plus 6? Did it come from those 2 factors, or did it come from x plus 3 and x plus 4? Did it come from those 2 factors? What factors did it come from? And that's what we're going to work on today, okay? So to answer our question is we got to figure out what factors these things came from. Kind of like what we did yesterday. All right, so there's two real ways to kind of do this. We got the factor by grouping method, which is what we covered yesterday, and we've got the factor by area model, which I'll do a little bit in class today. So let's just take this particular problem right here, and we got our two choices over here. So let's just take this. Let's just take x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to look at, and there's multiple ways to do this, but I like to look at this middle number right here. There's only so many ways to make 7, okay? So if we look at this, to get 7x, I can do 7x plus 0x. I can do 1x plus 6x, right? I can do 2x plus 5x. I can do 3x plus 4x, right? Those are different ways to write 7x right here in the middle. So my question to you is, and there's two questions we can write. We can write what adds to make 7, what adds to make, I should say 7, let's just do it that way, but multiplies to make 12. Those two things have to happen, okay? Or we can reverse that idea. Let me get rid of this extra example right here, guys. Let me go down farther here. Do that in a minute. Or we can ask it this way. Oops, wrong color. Wrong pen. This one works so much better. Or we can say, what multiplies to make 12? Sorry for the writing, guys. What multiplies to make 12, but adds to make 7. Those are our two choices. So let's look over here. 7 times 0 is 0. 1 times 6, that's 7. Doesn't work. 2 times 5, that's 10. It doesn't work. 3 times 4 is 12. And 3 plus 4 is 7. So that satisfies our rule over here. So now we're going to look at the distributive model right now, or the factor by grouping. So let me go back to my other color here. So we've got this, guys. We've got x squared. Let's rewrite this. Plus 12. And then I'm going to take my answer to those questions, which is plus 3x plus 4x. All right? So now, if we look at this, yesterday we did factor by grouping. So I'm going to do factor by grouping over here. So I'll do factor by grouping here. I'm getting better at writing, guys. My hand's warming up. All right. We're going to factor that like that, and we're going to factor that like that. And so what can I divide into each of the two terms in front? I'm going to take this, and I'm going to say, oh, I can divide this by an x, and I can divide this by an x. So I'm going to write an x out front. And then I can divide this by 4 and this by 4. So I'm going to put a 4 out front. Okay? Now, what's left? Let's rewrite this. So, put my parentheses here. We're using a positive 4. So, if I add x squared divided by x gives me just an x. 3x divided by x just gives me just a 3. 4 divided by 4 gives me just an x left. 12 divided by 4 gives me a 3 left. Remember, these want to match, and my new answer is x plus 4 times x plus 3, and that's going to equal 0, because remember, we're solving these things. So if that's the case, then I just set each one of my answers equal to 0, and I get x equals -4 and x equals -3. So we can use the factor by grouping method. Or we have, now I know my craziness is getting all over the place here. So let's set up let's see if I can draw this normally. I doubt it. Oh, could be pretty close. Yeah, sort of. And, oh, look at that. I made it. All right, so let's take a factor by our area model. Let's just kind of block this off here. We don't want that. So our factor by area model here, we're going to take our first two terms, and we're going to put right here. We're going to take our first two terms in the top row, x squared plus 3x. And we're going to take our bottom two and go 4x and 12. So remember, I like to factor columns first. That's just my preference, doesn't matter. And so I'm going to look at my column here, and I can divide an x out of both of those. I look at my column here. This is a positive 3x. I can really erase that positive 3x. I only write negatives usually. So I can divide both of these numbers here, 3 and 12, by 3. That's the largest number I can divide into there. When I look at my first row now, I look at that and I go, let's see, I can take out an x. And then I can divide both of these by 4. What's my answer? Those two here give me an x plus 4. Let's write that again, because my hand is not working again. X plus 4. And then the bottom one is x plus 3, and that equals 0. And then look, these two are the same answers. So you can either use factor by grouping, or you can use the area model. Does not matter to me. I'll do one more extra example for you guys, just so you guys can see it, and then we are done for today. So if we look at that, and I get, let's do here, it doesn't matter the letter. Let's do d squared plus 11d plus 24. Let's do, actually, you know what? Let's go back. Oops. Go back and do this. Let's do a subtraction one here. Because sometimes the subtraction ones, d squared minus 5d minus 24. So these pose a little different issue for us here, right? So let's go ahead and kind of tackle this here. We've got our factors here of 24. So what makes negative 24? So we can do 1 times 24. We can do 2 times 12. We can do 3 times 8. And we can do 4 times 6. Those all make 24. All right, so we know that those are going to make 24 right here, but which ones in the middle can we split up to make negative 5? Now, this is where it's kind of tricky. We got to change our signs somehow. So I need negative 5. So that means the larger number on the right has to be a negative. Well, that's not going to make negative 5 anyway. This one is not going to make negative 5. These two have opportunities. So when I add these two together right now, I get 11, right? So over here, I get 3 plus 8 equals 11. What do I need? I need those two to equal negative 5. That doesn't give me any opportunity. Well, what if I change the 3 to a negative? Negative 3 plus 8. Well, that gives me a positive 5. I need a negative 5. So why don't I go 3 minus 8? So that doesn't work for us. That one doesn't work for us. 3 minus 8 gives me a negative 5. So I found my part in the middle that adds. So d squared plus 3d minus 8d minus 24. So let's talk about our rule right now that we said earlier, real quick. What adds to make the middle term? Plus 3 minus 8d gives me negative 5d. But when I multiply those two together, it gives me negative 24. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. So it satisfies my answer so far. Now, I have your choice. You can go factor by grouping. You can go factor by grouping, or you can go the area model. I haven't shown you a lot of area models, so let's do that one. So we go over here, we draw our square. Hopefully you draw it better than I do. Oh, I'm getting better at that, guys. And I take my 4 terms and I put them in here. D squared minus 3d minus 8d minus 24. All right. So now I look at it again, and I like to do rows first. So I do my row. I can take a d out of those. I'll do my row. I can take 2 negatives out of that one, and I can take a negative 3 out of that one. If I look at here, I can take my row. I can do my d. My last row, I can take a negative out of that. That doesn't work. What did I do wrong? Oh, this should be a positive. That's why. Get rid of that and get rid of that. Sorry, that should be a positive there, guys. I can't take a negative out of both of them, but I can take a negative out of both of these, which gives me a negative, and I can divide both of them by 8, a negative 8. So I get d minus 8, d plus 3 equals 0. And when I set each one equal to 0, d minus 8 equals 0, d equals 8, d plus 3 equals 0, d equals negative 3. So those are my 2 options, guys. All right, so we got you caught up. Good luck. Sorry for the longer video, and here we go.